So we recently did our top predictions for the video conferencing industry, or for the mega trends in IT and their effect on video conferencing. Now let's talk about the things that aren't going to happen in the video conferencing industry in 2014. Number one, the death of the video conferencing endpoint in meeting rooms. That's been predicted since at least 1996 in my experience, and everyone said, oh well, everyone will do it on their laptop or their desktop machine, and then mobiles came out and everyone said it'll be done, everyone will do all their calls on their iPhone or their tablet or maybe their phablet or something, and no one will need those good quality meeting room environments. They've said it for this year as well. I don't believe it. I've never believed it. I think people like meeting in meeting rooms, or at least feel it's part of the process. I think that the mobile devices will help because they'll bring more people into the experience, but I don't think everyone's going to retreat to their office and do all their calls over their laptop. Howard?
Not only do I agree with you, but I'll go one further, and then I will predict that not only is there not going to be a death, but there's going to be a resurgence. So as the utility of who you can reach and what you can do on video devices grows, the conference room, the importance of the video-enabled conference room is going to grow as well. To be able to talk, who's going to be talking to these mobile users? Who's going to be talking to these telepresence environments? And people like to meet in groups. And so the conference room will, in fact, I believe, in many ways become more important. Or just in addition, to give you an example, to come back to Array telepresence for one more second, we're talking to a Fortune 100 that's interested in upgrading 175 of their 500 plus video rooms to this Array technology. I mentioned earlier that you could use a single codec to power dual displays. In this particular instance, this Fortune 100 is going to put 2 video codecs into each of these upgraded rooms, so that they can do what I refer to as telepresence multipoint, which is have one location on one display and another location on the other display simultaneously. And so you're now seeing applications that are demanding 2 hardware-based codecs in each of the conferencing rooms. So I agree completely. Not only is the conference room dead, but I think there's a number of factors and technology solutions that are coming that are going to revitalize it with an improved quality of experience for end users, with an improved utility of who can be reached and what you can do, better data collaboration, better human factors, and so I'm predicting that not only are you right, but it's actually going to grow.
And you know what? One, I can't disagree. Your argument holds water very nicely. It's self-serving to me. I would like to sell some more endpoints. And I have to say, one of the other things that you're right about is one of the traditional problems with video conferencing is, 10, 15 years ago, I'd go and see a client and say, here's your video conferencing solution, it's $100,000. And he said, but what if no one else has got one? Yeah, okay, well, you've spent $100,000, you've got no one to ring. So it would actually be positively disadvantageous for someone to invest in video conferencing. Well, now that's simply not true. If you've got a video conferencing solution, you can ring pretty much anybody. I mean, WebRTC would allow it. A bunch of other services, ClearSea, other applications would allow you to do video with mobile users. So actually investing in video conferencing is a positive advantage for someone, rather than there be a positive incentive to be the last guy to install it. And that's always been the traditional problem with video. I'll be the last guy to buy it after everyone else has worked it all out, and that isn't true anymore.
So I'll give you a specific example that I think many people will find interesting. In the last issue of our magazine, we covered intercompany telepresence, the ability to reach your partners, your vendors, your supply chain, your demand chain. And we profiled Deloitte, which has 57 multi-camera, multi-codec immersive telepresence environments and 483 traditional video conferencing systems. When we did that article last year, Deloitte was connecting to 185 of their clients a month. which is a phenomenal figure that most other organizations their size aren't even approaching. They're absolutely on the leading edge of that. We checked in with them not too long ago, and now that number is up to 225 clients a month. And so this, this is just a specific concrete example of the growth and the utility and who you can reach and what you can do, and it's only going to drive the importance of video in the future.
I agree. I mean, look, and that's a great story. We should definitely get people the links to that. But here's an interesting point, right? I don't know how many folks Deloitte's got. 100,000? 50,000?
190,000 employees.
190,000 employees. So there's not even one video conferencing system. And by the way, that's a big user of video, right? A superb Fortune 100 or certainly Fortune 500 based organization. And they don't even have video for 1 in 2,000 of their staff. And so the sky's the limit. So all of their employees are video enabled. They do have it on the desktop. They do have it on the laptop, and they run their own video network operations center, and they support all the different devices, and the number of their rooms is growing. And and that's an example of an organization where the number of the rooms is growing. And so this is, it's not a static thing. It's as video becomes more important, organizations are going to add more rooms and they're going to add more video conferencing endpoints. And that's great, right? But you think about how many conference phones they have. I was working with one of the big American banks, probably 10 years ago. And I asked them how many conference phones they had. And there was 4 of them around the room, and they guessed between 10 and 20,000. And the whole idea of buying a conference phone now for a meeting room is ridiculous. You could buy video conferencing for so little more than you can a conference phone. That if they were to equip, if Deloitte was to equip every one of their meeting rooms, it would be tens of thousands. I mean, the numbers become enormous. So I'm really pleased and excited to hear about what they're already doing. But to put it mildly, it's the slightest bit of the iceberg above the water. The opportunity is enormous, absolutely ridiculous. I doubt we're even at 5% penetration on the biggest players, let alone the vast majority who have nothing at all.
I agree completely. I agree.
Okay. Next prediction of what's not going to happen in 2014. Microsoft is not going to get its act together with Skype. Discuss.
So, yes, no, and maybe.
Right, well, that's
There
fine.
is
Let's
so
move
much
on.
potential. There is so much potential. There is so much potential for Skype within the Microsoft ecosystem. On the con side, if anybody can screw it up, it would be Microsoft, not, just because I call it big company-itis. The bigger the company, the less innovation, the less ability to get things done, the less ability to realize a truly innovative vision within the organization. And so it really is a roll of the dice.
It's a roll of the dice, and it's a dud. I predict now it's a dud for a number of reasons. They bought Skype because Steve Ballmer needed to be seen to be doing something. And when you're as rich as Microsoft is, spending $8.5 billion on a company, it looks like you're moving the company forward. It just sort of got rid of a rather embarrassing amount of cash in the bank. But it wasn't strategic. Secondly, WebRTC is going to make, I believe, much of what Skype can achieve for people redundant. And I don't mean just the video components. There's an awful lot that WebRTC can do about messenger technologies that's going to make a lot of the Skype activity less useful. And thirdly, let's be honest, it's not as if Microsoft doesn't have its hands full with Nokia and Windows Mobile and the loss of Office and the catastrophe that was Windows 7 and Windows 8's kind of... they've got lots else on. I just don't see it myself. But...
So what you're saying is that they've got big company-itis, and I agree with that. What they do have, and why I do think that there is so much potential for Skype, is that they've got the largest video-enabled address book in the world, and one that hundreds and hundreds of millions of people have active on their desktop at any one time for a variety of reasons. Some people are using it for IM. I use it because I'm constantly plugged into a headset. And the way that I work is I have generally have my legs up on my desk. And so it's easy for me to do a call. And I actually pay. I'm willing to pay Microsoft for the privilege of making something that would be completely free if I would just, just reach my lazy butt over and pick up my VoIP-enabled phone. But I'm not willing to do that because I'm already plugged in. I can copy and paste the numbers, etc. And so having that asset, hundreds and hundreds of millions of people, with a video-enabled address book, they're using it. There's so many different ways that they could monetize that and get value out of that. The question is, can they find the entrepreneurship within a company to fund an important vision like that? That is what remains to be seen. But the potential is there. But if anybody can screw it up, the bigger the company, the more likely they are to do it.
Okay, so my prediction is no, they can't. Yours is maybe they might.
Maybe. I'm only willing to go with maybe.
Okay, well, I did say might. I mean, how many hedges do you want in one sentence?
Yeah.
Okay, next. H.265. It's huge. It's very important. Some people in our industry are talking about it as if it's nirvana. My opinion is it's important. And if I'm Netflix and I can store a bazillion movies in half the amount of hard disk capacity, and I can stream them to my clients at the same quality for half the bandwidth, or I can give them 4K, which I'm understanding they're beginning to do. House of Cards, as an example, will be run through Netflix in 4K quality in February, I believe. I think in the streaming world, H.265 is very important in 2014. In the video conferencing world, I don't think it matters at all.
I think it's an incremental improvement. It is not going to it's not going to lead anybody to have it's not going to drive a technology refresh. It's not going to it's going to be a checkbox on an RFP. There's nothing there that is significantly impactful to the end user experience that's going to drive people and say, oh wow, that I've got to have video conferencing now. So it'll be an improvement. It will give benefits to the industry, but it's not going to be. You're correct in that it's not going to be impactful.
Yeah, one of the things that people need to understand about the technology is 265 is what we call very lopsided or asynchronous in the way that the encoding and decoding is done. Decoding is a relatively simple experience. You'd still need an upgraded set-top box and anything you have today, but it is something like depends on the kind of video you're watching, but something between 30 and 100 times harder to encode H.265 than it is to decode it. So decoding it is, I'm not saying I'd go so far as say trivial. It isn't trivial, but it's within the realms of reasonable possibility at a decent cost. But to encode H.265 real time in 2014, I think will cost too much for most customers to see that it's worth the lowering of bandwidth. Now, 2015, 2016, I think that 265 will become very big because we will then be going en masse in video to 4K displays. And there's no question for 4K displays and above, but let's just go for 4K today. 4K displays, 265 is going to be vital. So it's got its future, but I don't think it's in 2014. It's too early. It's not really baked enough yet.
And I'll add one more. I'll just add one more reason why is that the visual collaboration industry really does depend upon the early adoption of that Fortune 500 to Fortune 5000 crowd, and so the incremental improvement in lower bandwidth, they don't care.
No. They
don't care. They got plenty of bandwidth. They got bandwidth, for the most part, not in every location, but for the most part, they got it coming out of their kazoos. H.4, 264 SBC is doing fine on lossy networks, and so there's other technologies that don't require a forklift upgrade and refresh of all these rooms, and so I agree it's not going to be impactful. Definitely not in 2014.
I once, a few years ago, I caught the Queen Mary between Southampton and New York. and you felt a bump as you went over the middle of the Atlantic because of all the fiber optic cables. I mean, the amount of bandwidth these companies have. I was talking to a big pharmaceutical even a couple of years ago, and they had gigabit Ethernet between their UK and their Philadelphia facilities. And that, by the way, that was dual gigabit Ethernet because they had the second one that was spare that they put nothing on. So if we turn around and say, oh, your video traffic can be a bit lower if you spend $30,000 on a codec, I think they don't care. If you turn around and say, I've got to give you 4K displays.
Mice nuts.
Nice to see the Tourette's has come back, Harry. We better get on to the next topic. Right. Okay. Prediction for 2014. Android and iOS are going to own the mobile world. BlackBerry, it's hardly a prediction because I think it may even have happened by the time we physically transmit this, which is only about a day after we recorded it. And BlackBerry's dead. Mobile, Windows Mobile? I mean, really? What do you see any future for this?
So I've seen one in the past 5 years. I know I've only seen, other than in a store, 2 Windows mobile devices, and I've only seen one person that was actually using it recently. And so, I mean, it's as far as I can tell, it's non-existent in the marketplace. I don't know. I know of one person that uses it, and his colleagues were all making fun of him for it.
Yeah, well, we've got one guy in our office who's got one, and nobody fails to laugh at him when he tells them about the battery life. They point out, well, there's no apps, so you're not running anything, so of course the battery lasts 2 days. And secondly, the other folks I have met who've got them, I always go and ask them because I'm rude and ignorant man. And anyone I see with a Windows mobile, I will go and say, oh, how are you getting on with it? And they would generally tell you how good it is. And then I ask them, and out of interest, who do you work for? And 3 out of the 3 people I've asked in the last 12 months who've told me how good it is worked for Microsoft. So,
because they get them free.
Well, and more importantly, it's self-praise is no recommendation. It's like when people ask me, how well did you do that webinar? I was brilliant, I say. And they go, really? I go, I don't know, ask somebody who watched it. So that's probably a cue for everyone listening to this now, whether it's as the webinar, or as a YouTube, or as a podcast. Give us some feedback. I'd like to know if we're actually doing anything that people want to be involved in. It would be, we can only improve if you give us some feedback.